Hi class, in this video we're going to go over our final assignment, the cross-curricular brochure for families. Now this project is a fun one because you get to choose a STEM concept that you'll be doing in your classroom, and you're going to create a brochure introducing the project to families. Now in one of our previous weeks, in week 5, we addressed different STEM activities. Now you can get to pretend that you're going to implement one in your classroom. Now keep in mind, a STEM activity will incorporate at least 2 of the science, technology, engineering, and math. And so try to think of something that would incorporate 2 to 3 of these areas in which students will apply math skills using science or engineering as that content that they're learning. Now, for this project, after you think about the STEM project you'll do in your class, you're going to create a digital flyer or brochure that introduces the family to this project.
For example, when I used to be at the STEAM school I used to work at, in first grade, we used to work with forces and motions. Forces in motion as one of the science topics that they were teaching. They would have students build roller coasters using noodles that were cut in half and a ping pong ball. And students would explore this idea of how to get the ping pong ball to go over a hump or over a ridge, and then how far could it go? And so you could incorporate mathematics into this engineering idea, as well as we have science in there because we're exploring the forces in motion. Now, students could measure how far their ball went, how much of a curve it had to go up, and you could incorporate some different math skills in there. If that was my STEM project, I would be creating a flyer or a brochure for my families to teach them all about what the purpose of my STEM project is, how it connects to the real world, and the materials I'm going to be needing. So on this brochure, you're going to include a title. Then you're going to have a summary of the project and explain how STEM is going to be utilized and how it can be applied to the real world setting. So this might be something like, students exploring forces in motion applies to the real world because we use forces in motion in everyday life. When students are on their bicycle or on their roller skates or whatever, they're using forces and motions, and helps them understand how they can use force to get moving and how they can use friction or something to stop motion. Now, on your project, you're also going to need to explain how students will be assessed. In projects like this, I don't usually give students a test. I assess their understanding through observational assessments. Often I create a rubric of what I am looking for. And I walk around in the classroom and I provide students feedback on their collaboration, on their critical thinking skills, and if they are applying the math, the science, and the engineering. In addition to letting parents know how you will be assessing students' learning, you're going to need to explain the materials that you will use for the project, and you need to let parents know if there's anything that they need to bring from home. In my example, I might ask every student to bring in one noodle. If they could all go to the Dollar Tree and get a pool noodle, then I would have enough noodles for us to cut them in half and be able to construct those roller coasters. I might provide the masking tape and the ping pong balls and the tools to measure how far their balls go. Finally, how can the families support the student in the completion of the project? So this might be noticing forces in motion at home as they're playing with their toy cars. Talk about how far can it go? When will it stop? Parents might be able to come in during the construction of our roller coasters and support with taping or asking kids questions or holding up their roller coaster as they're trying to test their ball going through their roller coaster. So on this assignment, you really should be creative, make it visually appealing, and be organized with your data. A lot of people end up using a Word template to be able to make a brochure. But one of my favorite places to go is to Canva. If you've never been to Canva, it's an online graphic design website, and they have a lot of free templates that are really beautiful that you could just type in, plants. And if you're doing a project about plants, you'd be able to find a cute or really great photograph or template using plants, and then you can change the information to what your topic is rather than, it might be a nursery or, brochure about their nursery, but you could change it to be more educationally based. This is a fun project. It doesn't need to be really extensive academic writing. It obviously needs to be written academically, but you don't need to be writing long paragraphs here. This is a brochure, so keep it simple, keep it to bullet points, and just make sure that you have all of these different criteria within that flyer or brochure. Now let's take a look at the rubric to see how you'll be graded. All right, so first we're looking for that title and strategies for STEM integration. So I'm really looking not for just a little math project, or a science project, but we really want to have all the STEM concepts and talk about how they can be applied in the real world setting. So that's going to be your first graded area. Next, you're going to have assessment. So are you explaining how students will be assessed? And if there's a rubric, you might explain the different criteria that you're going to have on the rubric. Next is materials. And so are you explaining the materials you'll need for the project, including what can be brought from home? So if there's nothing that can be brought from home, you can just say all materials we provided within the classroom. Next, how can the families support the project? And so you're thinking of realistic ways that families can support the project. They might not be able to come into the classroom, but they can talk to their students or their child about the concept at home or make connections at home. Next is going to be you having all of the elements that are required, as well as a professional, neat, really nice looking presentation. These are the type of assignments I really have a lot of fun on when I'm a student, because I don't love to write long papers, but I do love myself a little graphic design. So this can be a lot of fun for those of you who don't always love to write long papers, but they like to get creative. And finally, we have our mechanics, as always. This is your final assignment, just showing what you've learned. I hope you have a lot of fun on it, and please reach out if you have any questions.